The Kan variation. After the move a6, black wins more games than white, according to the Leech's database. e4, c5, knight f3. This Sicilian defense, white is trying to play d4, the open Sicilian. If they play, for example, the closed Sicilian, you might have to learn something else against that. But you know, the Sicilian is pretty complex. You are gonna have to know a lot of lines. So knight f3, e6, d4, takes, and now we play this move a6. The move a6 might look a little bit weird, but it basically does two things. Prevents anything from going ever onto the b5 square, including this other knight, and exploiting our temporarily weak dark squares. So the main line goes like knight c3, and now we go queen c7. You could go b5 right away, but queen c7 first is considered main. And now, what does the move queen c7 do? First, it stops e5, which this is one of the main ideas of the Kan variation, just not letting white ever go e5 and breaking any center. It also stops bishop to f4, and in some lines it puts some pressure onto this knight. So the funny thing is, the main line on the amateur level is bishop to e3, which is not good. White is basically trying to go for the English attack and castling queenside quickly, but this doesn't work really well against the e6 Sicilians, because you are always just ready to break in the center. So we will start preparing our break in the center. Knight to f6, f3, and now we will play bishop to b4, putting pressure on this knight, and just preparing to break. So queen d2, and now we will play d5. If white doesn't take us and plays, for example, bishop to d3, there is this vicious trap where you push the pawn up, and then you get a fork. In 10 moves, you already won the game. I don't know how much better of an opening video I can give you. So let's say they take us, and now we just recapture, and they kind of basically have to move the knight back, where you will just capture the bishop, and we'll have a very easy game. Black is already much better. We will just develop our pieces and play normal chess. So the main line goes like bishop to d3. Well, I'm saying main line, but at the amateur level, it's the English attack, where you will just win. And now you play this early b5. The main line actually goes like knight f6. But I like these early b5s, because you will play b5 anyways. I just like putting it out there early. You take space, and a lot of these beginners will just play a3 right away. Because b4 might look a little bit scary, but it's not that much of a threat, only in some lines. So let's say castles. Now we develop our pieces, and essentially what we go for is this Scheveningen-ish type of structure. And you see, we are delaying castling, because sometimes we won't castle, sometimes we will castle queenside. And here white is trying to go for f5. So let's say he brings the other rook, just completing his development. And now there is this move g6, which you can play if you finished your development, and white is looking to probably play f5. So the g6 does two things. If, let's say they play f5, they can't play f5 right away, so they will like unpin. And now you can just go completely crazy and start just chugging pawns forward and attacking. This is one of a unique Sicilian ideas in the Kan, where you just attack on the king side. Your center is completely solid, there are no pawn breaks, and white is kinda just defending. So let's say they break, and now you will take with the g pawn, very important, opening up your rook. And if they recapture, you close the center down with e5. You open up your bishop, you open up your rook, you have the center, and you are already just much better. So let's say white doesn't like any of your BS and is just trying to push for e5. We'll just keep preventing, and if they play f4 here, you'll just go bishop e7, getting ready to castle. If they play e5, you will just take and play bishop c5, exploiting this weak diagonal. And if they go bishop e3, you just grab this free pawn. You're a pawn up with a better position. Let's say they try to go like king h1, then you can already go h5, or you can just castle. Let's say black just castles, and now pushing is like not very good because you will just move the knight to the center. If they take, you will recapture. You are already better. They spent so many moves just trying to push this e-pawn and didn't do much. So white has more options than just playing the main line. They can play an early c4 or bishop to d3. Bishop to d3 is considered to be the best approach as white, and bishop to d3 also aims to play c4, but not playing it right away, because playing c4 right away has some minor drawbacks. So this is the modern variation. And now black has a couple of options, like knight f6, the main line. I really like the Polugaevsky variation, which is bishop to c5, which essentially aims to remove the knight from the center, and now you have to do something with this bishop. And it's either to a7 or e7. And I don't like this move bishop to a7, because white will just play queen e2 and bishop to e3. Your bishop is done for. And suddenly this pawn becomes weak, because in the Kan, the dark squared bishop usually stays home and glues in your position. So I like retreating to e7. Now castles, and we will just continue with our regular plan. Now we will play b6 instead of b5, because we can't play b5, but that is completely fine. We will just continue with our regular ideas, play bishop to b7, maybe g6, h5, maybe we will just castle. It's depending on your playstyle. We are just standing well, like you have less space, but you are completely fine. The computer likes this, I like this. I played this actually against a 2100 rated player on FIDE, and from the opening I actually stood very well. I then hung this b6 pawn because it was blitz, but I was just very happy playing this position. So the modern variation isn't that different from the main line. You just play b6 instead of b5, you don't have to go necessarily queen c7, and then you just kind of figure it out. I will link you a video from chess coach Andras. He has a great video on the Kan middle game and how to play it and maneuver around it. The Kan isn't very theory heavy, but you will have to know how to maneuver around the middle games. So the last of the three main lines white can play is this move c4, aiming for a Maroczy bind. This is kind of like the modern variation, except the white has played c4 right away. You can't play bishop c5 because it's just guarded by the queen. Here you play knight f6. e5 doesn't work because you will just play queen a5 check and win this pawn. So knight c3. And now you can either go queen c7 or bishop to b4. That just depends on you. Against the Maroczy, what are you trying to do? You're trying to put the bishop out, castle, and play d5. Let's say like this, now you castle, and after bishop to e2, you can probably just go with d5 or queen c7. I like to play queen c7 first, just standard principled. Let's say bishop to e2 happens. You will put your bishop out, f3, now you will castle, and after white castles or plays some move, you will break the center. And already you have pretty much equalized. White has to give up their strong center, and you will have a very easy game. Kind of last trick white can play on you is this move a3 very early, trying to stop the bishop from coming to here. You could play it like a normal person and just develop your pieces and then later break, but I like this move knight takes e4. The engine doesn't like it that much, but it only gives your opponent like plus 0.9. And basically, yeah, this knight is not lost. You will go like queen e5. The best move is bishop d3 because white gets some development. But basically, you will play d5 or f5 and just win one of the knights back. In this variation, you are basically saying, look, you played the Maroczy. I respect that, but I don't care. I'm just gonna destroy your center, play normal chess. So that's it to the Kan variation. It's not very theory heavy, but you will have to learn around how to maneuver the middle game. This variation just wins. It's just insane at every level. Like, it's the most popular e6 Sicilian, but I just never see videos on how to play it. Or they will just explain the lines and not the ideas that much. And there are only a few ideas in the Kan. You will play your like Scheveningen-ish setup. You will stop white from going e5. And you can even like go crazy and just start attacking. If white tries to go f5, you can take with the g-pawn and then close the center. If they go f5 very early, you will just close the center and you will be very happy. If you want to see another opening video, let me know in the comments. I played quite a few openings, and I think to beginner and intermediate players, I can teach openings. So that's it. Bye.